The views expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Welcome everyone to this edition of Insights. I'm your host, Felina Jones, and with City Council elections just days away, we're here to talk with all the City Council candidates and get their perspective on various different issues. And joining me now is Mike Nunnally, who previously sat on City Council last year. Thank you for joining me, Mike.
You bet. Pleased to do so.
Definitely. And so what's your reason for joining into the election this year?
Well, I am born and raised in Alpena, and I am passionate about our community, our city. I always have been. It's a place I've chosen to come back to, and I want to create a environment, if you will, for our community that their children and their grandchildren can come back here to good jobs and the Alpena way of life. I've always worked for that, and I'll continue to do so if given that opportunity.
Great, great. And having served on City Council before, how would this year be different than your past year?
There's no question. The number one focus needs to be jobs and revenue. The scariest thing in Alpena right now isn't our political signs, it's how many for sale signs are up. And so we have some incredible opportunities coming into town with the Myers development, with the unmanned drone project, and already coupled with the hospital and NOAA and Northern Lights Arena, just incredible things that we offer. And we need to continue to present those through the chamber and through Target and our economic development to companies and corporations that are aligned with our way of life here in Alpena and bring great jobs. My daughter just moved back to Alpena from Florida because she couldn't find a job out of college, her and her husband. I'm blessed. They've moved back. We need to make that happen for everybody in Alpena. Absolutely.
And last time you served on City Council, you were not able to complete your whole stay there. What different aspects do you want to bring to the table that you didn't before?
Well, I don't think I'll be any different in that regard. I'll look the community in the eye. I'll put the tough decisions on the table. I'll ask folks to vote on them, and I am who I am. I look you in the eye and I tell you this is what I believe, and then if someone seconds that motion, we're going to vote on it. But Alpena is in a scary position right now. If we don't start creating economic opportunity for ourselves, we're looking at higher taxes, we're looking at higher fees, we're looking at less services. So we can make hard decisions today, and I'd make those same decisions today. Because at the end of the day, you're managing, say for example, like a football team. If it's not going well, you have to make decisions as to how you're going to improve that football team. I'd make those decisions 10 times out of 10 because I believed in my heart, I believe in my soul that was the best decision for Alpena at that moment.
And bringing that same personality in, how do you think it will go with everybody else?
Well, the thing I love about government is that today you and I will agree on this issue and we'll fight side by side, and tomorrow we'll disagree on something. Right. The key is to have the mutual respect for one another, to be able to agree to disagree. But I understand that everybody that is elected to council has their beliefs for a better Alpena. That's the one common goal that we all have. There's just going to be certain times that we disagree, and an old politician told me a long time ago, once that vote's done, you respect it and you move on.
And why do you think you are the best person to fill one of the seats this year?
I think I bring experience, a financial background, and education and management. I have over 25 years in management background. I'm a lifelong resident. I've devoted an incredible amount of time and energy towards making this a better community. And I think bottom line, people know where I stand because I look them in the eye and I tell them this is what I believe. And I will do everything I can to make our community a better community.
And if elected to fill one of those seats this coming week, what would be your first goal?
Well, first goal is going to be, again, supporting our jobs development. I truly believe I led the initiative to increase funds to Target and the Chamber, and they have done some just remarkable things. I think we have to focus our investment into that group to continue to bring jobs to Alpena, and so my first recommendation to council, and I'd recommend it whether I get elected or not, is I do believe the city needs needs to focus more support to the chamber and to Target to bring jobs to Alpena.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming and visiting with me today. Cal Howard now joins me, and he is a write-in candidate for this year's City Council elections. Thank you for joining me, Cal.
Thank you for having me.
So what made you decide to jump into the race for City Council?
Well, you know, I love my city and I love the people in it. I've been here since 1970. It's home. So I thought, hey, why not? You know, because basically there's some things I'm concerned about. And the city does need some changes and somebody to step in and make the hard decisions. So, hey, I've been here a while, you know, worked for the unemployment office for 25 years. I have some ideas, and I'd like to use them.
And what are some of those concerns?
Well, the major concerns are there's a lot of kids that I do counsel and talk to. They're looking for jobs. My son had to go all the way to North Dakota in the oil fields. I'd like him to stay here. I'd like him to be able to find a job to basically support his family. He's got a little baby right now, 3 months old, and, you know, it'd be great if all the kids, and adults too, could find jobs to stabilize themselves and help their families.
And with if you were elected to City Council, how do you think this position would help you to do that?
Well, I know one thing, that basically I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of people throughout the state. By contacting and maybe circling the wagon, so to speak, we can maybe bring some good jobs here to Alpena. Military is my background because my dad was Air Force career for 20 years. He retired in '73 here. I know a lot of people in the military also. I think there's a possibility with the drone that there's other manufacturers, companies that would love to come into Alpena. But we've got to be, you know, pretty aggressive in that aspect to bring them in. And I think I can do that.
And if you were to be elected, it would be your first year on council. How do you think you could bring a fresh new perspective?
Fresh new perspective? Well, let's go ethnicity and culture. We need a little bit of that on that board. Come on. So I believe that, you know, with having known a lot of people in Alpena, having graduated from Alpena High in '71 and Alpena Community College in '73, I put a new perspective on the aspect of helping, like I do at the Youth and Rec Committee, which I belong to now. We're doing a lot of good things in the community, and I think I can do some good things for our community and all those involved.
And what has been your main focus throughout your throughout your campaign?
My focus has been the youth. You go to the Boys and Girls Club, sit with them a while, listen to them, listen to the heartaches, some of the things that they would like to do, their aspirations, their visions, their goals. Well, let's make some of those happen. This is a generation out there that's sitting idle. We need to bring them in. We need to make them count. We need also to work with our senior citizens and make them feel that they're a part of the youth. And the youth working together with the older individuals, there's so much they can garner from each other. And I believe with working with the city and all of the aspects of who we are as a city, we can make this a better city for all our residents, not just some.
And joining in the race as a write-in candidate, how does that differ from being on the ballot? Do you foresee it being harder to get elected?
Oh, it is a lot harder because you have to hit the pavement. You got to talk to people, and a lot of business people that I know, you know, you talk to them, give them perspective of what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you can do it better, you know, and, you know, there's just, you know, there's the incumbent. You're always going to have to run a little harder and talk a little faster and motivate a little bit sometimes, and people are with me, you know. I believe I bring a different perspective that a lot of people, you know, don't have, or they haven't been all over the world like I have. I'm a world traveler. My dad came here in '70, and you know, I'd been to Germany, Alaska, Florida, Hawaii. I bring something that a lot of people don't have.
And what's the feedback that you've been getting?
Excellent. Boy, they want me to run. Why? Because, number one, you need honesty, integrity. You need somebody that's going to, you know, ask the hard questions. I'm sorry, but, you know, I do ask hard questions, but I expect, you know, some people to give me the straight answer, too. And if we want truth, hey, this is where it's got to be. It's got to be straight up, honest, and tell the people like they want to be. I was at the senior citizens. What they want to know is, can we get some more benches so that we don't have to walk so far and sit down? That's a simple thing. We can do that together. I believe that's what I can bring to the city.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Elena.
All right. Well, after the break, we'll continue to talk to more candidates running for this year's City Council. Welcome back, everybody, from the break. Joining me now is Anna Bass, who is another write-in candidate for this year's City Council elections, but also the youngest person running in the race. Thanks for joining me, Anna.
Thank you for having me today.
And at such a young age, you're 20 years old. What made you decide to run for City Council?
To bring a fresh perspective to Alpena, and I also want to motivate other younger generations to be more involved with what's happening in the community as well.
Right, right. And did you have any previous experience in student council or?
I represented Alpena at Michigan Auxiliary Girls State, so I went through a whole mock Senate, representing Alpena, one of 2 people there as well. So I have some experience running for a House, watching people run for city council, voting for a governor when I was in high school.
Right, and how has it been to run alongside your peers now that are in city council candidates, but also people that are much older than you?
I love every second of it. I've had the best time with this, and the people that I get to meet and have conversations with, and also everything that I've learned about the community that I may not have known before this. It's something that I definitely can take away everything positive from it.
And why is it so important to you? You said bring a fresh perspective, but what do you think you can bring to the table in terms of city council?
Just a new brainstorming person. Most people run on the foundation that they want to create a better Alpena for their children, and I want to be representative of their children and bridge that generation gap.
And you as a young person, you know how hard it is to get a job here in the community. Is that something that's important to you as well?
Yeah, currently I'm a publican at the Black Sheep, and the jobs hit home for everybody. I went and spoke with people at Luther Manor yesterday, and their biggest concern was they want their grandchildren to be able to stay here and have a living and not feel forced to move away. So it's something we need to be aggressive about, is creating more job opportunities so that there are less for sale signs and not as much population decrease.
And if you were elected to city council, what's your first goal?
My first goal would be to just take in everything, learn as much as possible from everybody else, and start fresh for myself there as well, and just do the best I can with the next 2 years.
And where do you see this going from here if elected?
If elected, I will focus on the next 2 years at hand. I will still be doing some schoolwork as well, and hopefully it takes me to a larger political career in the future.
Great, great. Anything in mind?
I just want to focus on city council, and if the opportunity presents itself in the next 2 years to run again, then I would run again. But my main focus is 2 years and then go from there.
Okay. And also, I mean, you're a native to Alpena, but why is it so important to kind of get out there in the public eye and help the community?
I want to give back to my community. I went to high school during the recession, and I watched many of the beloved sports programs that I love to play get cut, their funding get cut. And I know that hits home for a lot of people. And my parents recently opened a business in downtown Alpena as well. So I know the ins and outs of what it's like to open a business or have a small business in Alpena. And I want to make it easier for people in the future, and especially have more opportunities for my sister, who is 6.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me again.
And now joining me is Cindy Johnson, who is another write-in candidate for this year's city election. Hi, thanks for joining me today, Cindy.
Thank you for having me, Valina. It's nice to be here.
Definitely. Now, you've been on the city's Planning Commission board for the past 11 years.
Yes.
How do you think that'll transpire into if you were elected to the city council position?
Well, it transitions you well because you know a lot of the zoning and the planning of the city. We do the comprehensive plan, which lays out the plan for the entire city for the next 10 to 20 years. And I've gone through 2 of those updates because we update it every 5 years. So we actually make the plan that council adopts, that the city follows as its roadmap to planning for the future of the city.
And what sparked your interest in becoming a city council candidate?
Well, I've always volunteered for the city because Planning Commission isn't the only thing I've done. I'm also I've spent 10 years on the Historic Study Group, 5 on the Historic Study Commission, 8 years on the DDA design team, 2 years on the tax overlay, 6 years on community pride. I've just always contributed to the city. It just seems like a natural progression.
Right, you've had your hands at a lot of different entities to make the city become what it is. How do you foresee this position helping you continue your goals?
Well, I can continue to do the things that I do, even working with the committees that I work with, just in a different capacity, to promote the city in a positive way, to help shape the direction of the city, to be the cheerleaders that we need to attract business and people to our wonderful community.
And why do you think you stand out from the other candidates that are running?
I think from the other candidates, my involvement in the community for so long, not just with the city, but I've been involved in the school systems, volunteering for over 20 years in many, many different ways. But I love the city. I was born and raised here. I know the workings of the city. I know the programs. I just think I'm a good fit.
And going off of that, you're a write-in candidate, and that is always harder. So what have you been doing to kind of position yourself to be in good standing?
Well, we know that a write-in candidate has an uphill battle, but I think the most difficult part of a write-in is to educate the people on how to write in. And we've really focused on that in the materials that we hand out. It's the biggest question we get on how to write in. It's a simple process. You just write in my name and fill in the bubble. Right. You know, it's that simple. But a lot of people have lived their entire lives and not written in for a candidate, myself included. So it's kind of exciting to be able to do this time.
Right. And what do you hope that the community will kind of learn about you throughout this process and understand your position?
Well, I hope that they know about me, that I'm committed to Alpena, that, you know, I'm dedicated, I'm a hard worker, you know, I'll learn what I don't know. I'll work hard for the city, I'll listen to the people, I'll be respectful. It's just a great opportunity.
And what are you looking for the most if elected to City Council?
The most. That's kind of a difficult question.
There's so many things.
There are so many things. I think the most is to continue to see the growth that Alpena has started to transition itself into more of a retail service tourism base, and continue to grow on that and still add industrial. But we're diversifying our economy, I think is exciting. And you know, that will be exciting to continue to do that and work with our partners in and around Alpena to continue to make that happen.
Right, and going off of that, how can you kind of motivate the city to continue to do that?
Well, I think the city is motivated to do that. The city, I mean, they know that we had to change direction from just all industry, and the city has worked hard and will continue to work hard to do that. It's not that they haven't, it's just we just need to keep pushing that home.
All right, well, when we come back from the break, we'll tell you all you need to know about how to vote next week. Welcome back, everyone, from the break. Joining me now is Sexton, who is a former city council member and is running for re-election. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what's been the greatest part of being on city council since you've served previously?
I really just think it's serving a community that I know my kids are growing up in. You know, I've said from the start, I want to be involved so my kids have an opportunity that young people don't have here now. And really that just comes from being a parent, that I'd like my kids to stay close to home, and I think we're all happy with Alpena and would like to see our kids live here. And so it's about creating opportunities and giving us an opportunity for those young people to stay as they become young adults.
Absolutely, and that's something that I've heard across the board. Everyone wants the kids to stay here in the community to continue to build it up. How do you think that you can help in that process?
Well, you have to be able to try to diversify your economy so there's more opportunities for those people. There's a lot to sell about Alpena. We like the quality of life. We have a good workforce. We have a good college and healthcare and lots of positives. But without career opportunities and good paying jobs, young people have to leave for those opportunities. So you have to try to bring in white collar industry. You have to try to continue to increase tourism because those are the types of jobs that young people start out in, and then they move on to white collar as they get degrees. We have to continue to keep manufacturing healthy as well. Anytime we're dependent on one particular sector and it suffers, as manufacturing has, it really has that adverse effect. So the more we can create different opportunities and opportunities for educated people, I think the more young people we can bring here, and that always brings more opportunity with it.
And running for re-election, do you think you have a leg up on the other contenders?
I don't necessarily think so. I kind of hesitate to say. You have to be careful what you wish for. When it was first announced that Nunnally and myself were running, I asked people for write-in candidates to bring more to the table, and I think that's only fair, for the opportunity. So I think the only real leg up is that people know what to expect already. I am kind of what I am, and people accept that or they don't, and so that would be the only advantage, so to speak, or disadvantage, I guess. It depends on how you look at it, but that's about the only area I would say that.
And if re-elected, would you change anything different than you did in the past, or just continue from where you kind of left off?
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job as a city with this, the hand we've been dealt. And that's no different than elsewhere in the state and in most states. With cuts in revenue sharing, with declining population, as property values going down, a lot of those things have made it so we're just trying to keep the ship afloat, trying to keep our quality of life. What we need to be able to do is start to look at better opportunities, to be more aggressive, to bring more opportunity here. I think, again, we've kind of righted the ship over the last 5 or 6 years of a lot of budget shortfalls. We have a lot of challenges ahead still, but I think the focus needs to be on growing and expanding opportunities and not just hanging in there, so to speak.
Right. And some people, I know, I mean, this doesn't go for everybody, but some people, once they've served, they're done with the position. Why is it that you want to continue?
Oh, if I could have accomplished everything I would have liked in one term, I would be out, sure. I still feel obligated for my own family. And I asked my kids and my wife, and if they said don't run, I wouldn't have. And so I think that's the real motivation, is to finish the job. And it's not a short process. Our challenges have been big. So I don't like to walk away with things kind of in midair in a lot of areas. So hopefully this will be my last term, and we're done, and we're in a great direction, and I'd like to be part of that still.
And is there any specific things that you feel like you need to accomplish this term?
Specifically, probably not. I think it's to continue to build relationships with our partners outside of the community, the townships and the county. As we all suffer economically, we're going to be much stronger if we do that together. So I guess I am going to give you a specific answer to that after all, but it's the things that I've talked about and have been out there are much easier accomplished if we do it with collaboration with the county and the townships. And we're really in a unique area where what impacts the city impacts everybody. And I think that would be said of the townships and the county as well. We're all interconnected. And the more we work on that, selling ourselves as a region, the better off we're going to be. So that would be the one thing I would probably continue to push. There's a lot of other issues, obviously, that we'll address, but they're best addressed together.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. And now we're going to throw it over to WBKB reporter Lindsay Iadeluca, who is at City Hall, to give us a perspective of what we need to know coming into next week for voting. Lindsay?
Thanks, Felina. I'm sitting here with Karen Hebert, and she is the City Treasurer and Finance Director here in the city of Alpena. Thank you for joining us today, Karen. And Karen, I kind of wanted to ask you some of, the basic logistics of voting. Why, let's start out with why is voting so important?
This is the chance for everybody in the community to have their voice.
Okay, and why is it so important that people get out there and, and say their opinions and have a voice?
It tells us, it tells the community, it tells the city what's important to the people. What do we need to work on?
Okay, and there are a lot of people out there that maybe they're hesitant to vote, they're not quite sure maybe who they want to vote for. What would you have to say to them?
There are so many things out there for them to check out. We have the League of Women Voters at the library. There's pamphlets out, so the websites. There's so many places to go to check out the information and why certain proposals are being put on the ballot and why certain candidates stand for certain things.
Okay, so let's talk about ballots. How do you guys tally up all of the votes? Walk me through the aftermath of it.
Okay. Actually, during the day when someone votes, they feed their ballot into a tabulator. It tabulates it immediately.
Wow, okay.
So by the end of the night, we run a tape, and there's our totals.
Okay.
It's a wonderful system. As far as write-ins, that's going to put a little bit of some length onto the voting at the end of the night because the write-ins will have to be counted by hand.
Oh, okay. Okay, and who's in charge of all that? How does that work?
Each precinct, we have 6 precincts in the city. We have 6 workers in each precinct, and there's a chair and a deputy. So they are ultimately responsible for each precinct.
Okay, and talk to me a little bit about what it takes to lead up to Election Day. You guys have to set up all of the booths and things like that. So how does that work?
It is a lengthy process. I don't think people realize. You have to get all your publications in the paper. We have to test the equipment, and it has to be made public. We test our automarks for the handicap. We have to put boxes of supplies together. We are going to have training tomorrow for our deputies and chairs to get them prepared for Tuesday night. We have our receiving board to get ready. We have to put our workers together. Who do we need to work?
Wow.
So it's quite a process. And then our Department of Public Works does a great job. They take all the equipment out to the precincts the day before. They come here the day of and take the ballots out, and they clean up the day after the elections.
Wow. Okay, so it takes an army.
It takes an army.
Okay. And I mean, what else really goes into this for, how about for community members? You talk about write-ins. There are a lot of write-ins this year, aren't there?
There are 3 write-ins.
Okay. So, how does this switch things up from, the basic ones, people that are on the ballots?
Well, there are 2 openings for council seats, and there are only 2 on the ballot. So that would have been a very simple election.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no competition. However, with 3 write-ins, that's a lot of people to decide, and so the community each needs to look at all 5 candidates and decide which ones they want to run their community.
Okay, and it really is important. I agree with you. I think it's important that you have a voice and such, and there might be things in the community that a community member might not approve of. You might like something to be changed or whatnot. So what would you have to say to them in regards to, some people wake up in the morning and they're like, I should have run. What would you say to them?
Hopefully they will run next time. There's always opportunities. That we have so many boards that have openings for people if they'd like to even just start with a board to serve and get a feel for things, and then they could certainly come on and run for council.
All right.
All right, well, thanks, Lindsay. Remember, everyone, to go out and vote on November 5th for your city council nominees. That'll do it for this week's edition of Insights. You can catch us back here next Sunday at 11. Have a good one, everybody.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.